Live. My name is James Batchelor. Thank you very much for joining us on these daily broadcasts on the Car Dealer Magazine YouTube channel, where we talk to businesses, dealers, you name it, we talk to them. So today I'm delighted to say we've got Georgina Wood from P&A Wood on the show. Hello, Georgina.
Hi there.
Thank you very much for joining us. I mean, I've been looking forward to this show since we booked it in, actually. So thanks so much for coming on. Now, for a bit of background, P&A Wood has been in business since 1967, when twin brothers Paul and Andy Wood decided to start their own business working on Rolls Royces. To say the business has developed and been successful is an understatement. Since the 60s, it is now highly regarded by those in the classic Rolls-Royce and Bentley world, and also sells brand new Rolls-Royces with its Rolls-Royce Motor Cars London Stansted showroom. That showroom itself cost £2.5 million when it first opened in 2014, and the whole site itself includes a coachworks and the original showroom selling classic models. Now, P&A Wood is also the only Rolls-Royce authorised accident repair agent for the UK. Their website is an absolute treasure trove of wonderful cars. Do log on. I have to say I salivated for well over half an hour this morning on the website. Sorry, James Baggett, if you're watching. And I have to say probably my personal favourite is the gurney nutting bodied 1937 4.5 litre Bentley pillarless coupe. So if you can sell it to me at a knockdown price, Georgina, that will be wonderful. Now, Georgina herself started the family-run firm in 2007 and has been P&A Wood's managing director since 2017. So she's the perfect person to tell us more about this fascinating company. Now, I've got plenty of questions to ask Georgina, but if you've got one which you're burning to ask and to get answered, please do drop it into the comments box and I'll do my best to ask it to her. Okay, Georgina, right. I mentioned in my intro just now when the business started, but please do tell us a little bit more about it.
Yeah, so it was officially formed in 1967 by Paul and Andy, the P and the A. I'm daughter of the P, but their passion for cars began a long while before that. And actually, when they were 14 with an Austin 7, they grew up in a sort of a poorer household and had seen an Austin 7 for sale. They were in Woodford Green for £15, and it wasn't something they could afford. So all of a sudden, they started cleaning family members' cars, and they chopped up old orange crates and sold for kindling, and eventually made the money to buy this Austin 7 for £15. And they kept it in a field opposite their house. They asked the people who owned the field, who said it was okay, and they drove it around a bit. And like I suppose young boys would, they sort of ragged it around. And eventually their uncle, who was in the carpentry trade, said, you know, I'd respray that for you if you prepare it. So he showed them how. They prepared this little Austin 7 and he resprayed it. And then it looked so nice, they didn't want to rag it around the field. But they decided to do the engine as well. So that's kind of where the passion began. And as they got older, I think they were 16 when they saw a dilapidated 2025 Rolls Royce on the side of the road. And Dad left a note on it that said, if you ever want to sell this car, please contact us. And the guy rang and they wanted £65. And they said, oh, you know, this is a lot of money. But at the time, they both had Bond Mini cars, which they'd done up, and they sold them both and bought this 2025. And again, I think either their father or their uncle came to the rescue and towed it home for them, and helped them and guided them. And in a little lock-up garage in Woodford Green, they restored this 2025. Andy got a job as an apprentice at Rolls-Royce. And Dad worked for like an on-the-spot welding car company, and Andy was doing well, and he was at Hythe Road, and he managed to get Dad a job in there as a welder. So they both worked at Rolls-Royce at a young age, but they were doing things outside of work, you know, helping people with their cars and cleaning them, servicing them, all of that sort of thing. And then eventually got so much work they decided to go off on their own. And that was about 1967 when the business was formed. and they rented a dirt floor barn in Morton Nunga in Essex. And when they jacked up cars, they had to put plywood on the floor and things like that. But they noticed, because they'd rented it, they couldn't afford to buy. The busier they got, the higher the rent went up. So eventually, I think 1970, they bought a premises in Great Bardfield, which was a really big deal. It was a massive outlay, and I think, imagine, very stressful at the time. But they very quickly filled up Great Bardfield with Rolls-Royce and Bentley. The locals, I understood, complained all the time because Rolls-Royce and Bentley lined the streets of this little village. And then I think it was about mid-80s that we moved here to Great Eastern, where we are now, which is a far bigger premises, and we've expanded it, as you know. So there's a large mechanical workshop, and there was the heritage showroom went in. Eventually, we bought the other side of the road and put in, as you say, the new showroom and coachwork facility that we have here. So it's expanded rapidly, but I would say that Dad and Andy have not really noticed that. They keep their heads down, they still work hard. Every now and then they look up and go, oh, we did all right. But yeah, it's world renowned, so I think they have done okay.
Yeah, just okay. I think the best stories and the best businesses in the motor industry and the motor trade always start out with an Austin 7, don't they?
Yeah. And Dad is still a very big fan. We have 13 Austin 7s at home to prove it. Yeah.
I mean, it's a story that is so sort of redolent of the times back then, really, because you can't imagine doing that now, can you? Because it's just so complex. I mean, you can't just whack the body off a car and just fix it up and play around with it, restore it and everything.
Yeah, I think that's part of what makes it so special, is you couldn't do it today. So for those people who have done things like that and achieved them, they're such lovely stories to hear.
Yeah. So what was it like? I know you weren't there, but starting the business in the 60s. I mean, if you think back to the 60s, Rolls-Royce as a brand was changing massively at that time. You know, what with the Silver Shadow and everything, and it started to become more of a modern and slightly more youthful brand. I mean, specialising in older Rolls-Royces, was that sort of a bit unfashionable a thing to do at the time?
No, I don't think so. No, I think you probably found then what we find today, and is that you've got your enthusiasts, and your enthusiasts just love it all, no matter what else is going on in the world. So although you do have these peaks and troughs when Rolls-Royce, for example, as a manufacturer, is popular and not, and the same for Bentley, I think there's always a demand for what we do. And I guess the real thing that people found different about Dad and Andy was their level of detail. So the big thing that really earned them work was the fact that they would service a car and clean the engine. And nobody did that, and it just made them stand out. Yeah. So they were never they never had dull moments. They were always busy. There was always stuff going on. And very often they were working, through the night to get jobs done for people. And that's what made them so special. They would go that extra mile. And we still do, that's what we pride ourselves on. Not so much through the night anymore, but, we do try and go the extra mile.
Yeah. So when was the first time you started to sell new Rolls-Royces?
We became main dealers in about 1990.
Okay.
So a good sort of 10 years before the split happened with Rolls-Royce and Bentley. And they were, Dad and Andy extremely proud. It's something they really wanted. So they'd worked on all of the marks of Rolls-Royce and Bentley up until that point. But it actually makes us unique to deal with 1904 to present day. There's not another dealer that does that.
Yeah. And I can only imagine that the criteria that you've got to reach to get your first agency for Rolls-Royce and Bentley, it must have been, pretty difficult. So that must have been a real testament to them to get that.
Yes, I think it was. And at the time, I think it was quite a struggle for Dad and Andy because they wanted it so badly. But there was this element of them being sort of a smaller, sort of backstreet garage that was, although doing a very good job, it didn't have so much of a name for itself. Yeah. But they were so proud to get it, and it's something they hold in one of their biggest achievements is to be main dealers. The split was a difficult time because you had to pick which manufacturer you would go with. They went with Rolls-Royce because they liked the vision for the new Rolls-Royces. But because of our customer base and the reputation we'd already built up, we were able to be Bentley service dealers. So nobody else was allowed to do that, but we were. So we were proud of that too.
Wow. Now, obviously, you've got the new showroom and you've got the older part of the business. That must mean you get very different types of customers. You get, the proper enthusiasts who know a 25 compared to a silver cloud, and then you've got the newer customers who perhaps they're not so au fait with the Rolls-Royce brand. They just see it in the present and as a brand that says a lot about wealth and status. It must be brilliant having all these different types of customers.
Oh, it's probably my favourite part of the job, with the exception of driving the cars. Yeah. The people that you meet are, wonderful. Some wonderfully eccentric, some incredible enthusiasts who know everything. And it's just a really nice experience, because no matter whether you are that modern car customer who's not so much interested in the heritage of the brand, but you're into modern cars, you're still an enthusiast. I don't believe many people who own Rolls-Royces aren't, because there's a reason you own a Rolls-Royce, and it's because it's the best car in the world and you love the quality, and that's what you've strived for or worked for. So I think, no matter what area of Rolls-Royce you're interested in, you're all got a shared passion, and that's what I love so much. And when we have, not at the moment, but groups of customers together, you really see them connect over a passion for cars, and it doesn't matter if it's an old one or a new one. There's a passion. Yeah, so that's what I love about it.
Yeah, obviously not at the moment because of coronavirus, but do you sort of hold like special events where customers who are the proper enthusiasts of the older models and newer owners meet together?
Yeah, very much so, because we actually have a number of customers who have classic or heritage cars and modern cars. So yes, we usually hold a number of events throughout the year, and then every few years, maybe every 5 years, we would have maybe a major event here where we would invite everybody, all of our customers, all of our suppliers. And the last one was the opening of the showroom in 2014, and we had 2,500 people attend. So all of those people get together and they look at what they want to look at around the site, but they also look at everything else. So you never get anyone who just wants to see the heritage or just wants to see the modern. They all want to look at the whole thing.
Yeah. Tell me a little bit about the Coachworks, because can you effectively rebuild an entire car?
Oh, absolutely. So we do everything on site except for chrome plating, those very specialist things. Yeah. But yes, we are restoring cars. We've got several on the go and very, very busy. But body off restorations, body off chassis, start from the beginning. And the aim is to repair, not replace in most instances. That's the preference, because you want to take what you've already got and, keep it alive. That's the goal. It's not always possible, but that's the goal.
Yeah. And is the popularity for those just constant? I mean, are you always sort of at your limit in terms of work to do?
Yeah, we have a tendency to overbook ourselves a little bit, because we never want to say no and want to keep everyone happy. But yes, we're very full with restorations, and they fall on you at different times, and there's an ideal way to do it, but inevitably, it works out that you're jumping on and off of things. But it's lovely, and to be out in the workshops and see all the different stages of restoration is great. We usually do a lot of tours and show people around and let them see the various stages, which hopefully next year we'll review.
Yeah. And do you get customers come to you and say, look, I want, much like an Austin 7, I suppose, but look, I want to have my own special. I want to have my own bespoke. Here's the chassis. And could you build me a unique body for a car?
Yeah, we're in the middle of one at the moment, Mark 6 Special. So it was a special originally, but the customer didn't like the body that's on it. So we're building a new one, and we'll come out with all these pictures of, a Van Pla Derby or various different things, and say, what do you like? What are the shapes and styles you like? And what do you want it to include? We'll make it from scratch, and we're doing one at the moment. It's very exciting, but it'll take a long time, especially because you need to liaise with the customer perhaps much more than you would on an existing body that what's going to be the end result. So we try and get them in and go through everything as much as possible. But right from that to, different cubby holes, different storage boxes. We've done silver ghosts that have got complete storage boxes underneath the seats and within the framework, so that you can store everything you need that you can't see and you wouldn't know are there. We enjoy doing that. It's very bespoke.
It's wonderful to hear that craftsmanship is still carrying on. And really, from what you've just said, it is like, you step back in time to the 20s and 30s when people would, they'd buy the chassis and that would come direct from the factory, and then they choose their body. And it's wonderful to hear that's still carrying on, because it's such a contrast to modern day cars, isn't it? And it's something which I suppose there's a fear that may be lost if firms such as yourselves don't carry that on.
Yeah, I guess you could have a fear of it, and we intend to keep doing it, so that's good. But it's probably one of our favourite parts of the process is when a customer comes along and says, oh, well, I need a cabinet for, my champagne, for example, and how would you get this into that car? We enjoy that. We mock everything up and we look at all the different ideas. We had a silver ghost recently that we finished that's got complete cocktail cabinets in the rear, with vanity cabinets with, hairbrushes and things, which is just fabulous. But we've also done some modern alterations as well on modern cars. We've done a few bits and bobs that we enjoy doing that too, because you learn so much about the modern car when you start taking it apart to do something new with it.
Yeah, I suppose that's a sort of a misguided sort of assumption that these days a Rolls-Royce customer will just buy a Phantom or a Ghost, and they may choose the sparkly headliner or a coach line down the side of the car, but the possibilities of bespoke features in the car are pretty much endless, really, aren't they?
Yeah, absolutely. And Rolls-Royce have a bespoke department, and they, if you're looking at from the off doing a bespoke project, then that can all be done with lots of consultation and things with Goodwood. Quite often we get a customer who's had a car for a while and then they decide they want to make a change, and that's when we would step in and do things like that. We had a customer who had a Ghost, so the rear doors had automatic closing on the button, but the front didn't. And previously he had a Phantom drophead with front closing doors, and he said, well, I don't like getting in my driver's seat, having to lean out and shut my door. So we put electronic closing doors on the front for him. So things like that are great, and we were able to do that with the backup of the factory. So that's really good.
Yeah. I'm getting a sense that there's a huge amount of, Rolls-Royce at Goodwood place a huge amount of trust in you, because of course you are the UK's only authorised repairer. So there must be a huge amount of trust placed in you to do that.
I hope so, yeah. And I think any bespoke projects that we have done, so we did a P&A wood wraith, for example. We took the wraith and we put it in the middle of our workshop and asked our workforce to look around it and say, if you could change things about this car, what would you do? And we came up with a few suggestions. And for example, the full dash is veneered. In the standard car, it's not. But we've done some little changes like that, and then we will take the car to Goodwood and show it to them and say, what do you think? And they've always been really sort of good about the fact that we've made changes and always liked what we've done. And I think it's nice to have that support and that understanding go both ways.
Yeah.
We'll do things for them. They appreciate that we're trying to improve things for our customer base.
Yeah.
And understanding our customer base and what they might like.
Yeah. I'm probably going to embarrass myself now, but was that the green one? I seem to remember that.
Yes, green with silver sand over. Yeah,
wonderful. It looked absolutely wonderful, that did. So your the showroom which sells the newer cars, It's got a very different look and feel to perhaps a Rolls-Royce retailer in the centre of London, for example. Do you find that you get a different that you get a different kind of customer because of that?
I think we do. I think all dealers have a certain type of customer base, and you understand what your customer base is. And I think for us, it's probably that traditional. So our showroom looks from the outside like a very traditional building. When you step inside, everything's exactly the same as you would find in London or Manchester, for example. But I think you just tailor everything towards your own customer base. It doesn't mean that you're not looking for other customers and new people to bring into your showroom. But most of them love it because it's that bit different. We're out in the countryside, we can test drive cars easily, there's no traffic, and it's a nice, inviting place to come to, and we hope that's what draws people in.
For the benefit of myself and lots of other people watching this who can only dream of having a brand new Rolls-Royce, what's it like selling a Rolls-Royce to a first-time owner? Are they hugely excited, or what's the sort of the buying process?
Our favourite of the buying processes is when people are very excited, and they might visit maybe 3 or 4 times to get the spec right. And we'll all sit down, cup of tea and a biscuit, round the computer with all of the colours, and work out what their specification will be. And the people who put a lot of effort into that, it's always really, really good fun. And you build up a relationship with these people. You start to get to know them. And then throughout the process, once the car's on order, we like to keep in touch with them, let them update them where the car is, what's going on, so that they don't feel a disconnect between all of that time you spend together specifying the car. You keep in contact right through. And usually the delivery is quite the experience, especially if it's first car. So if we're delivering it or they're collecting it, it's such a big deal to them, that it becomes a big deal to us. So we're used to handing over these cars and seeing these cars, but it's making sure that their experience is the best it can be. And that is for us to be excited too. And generally they make you that way, because they're so excited, everyone gets excited. And we all tend to, even if it's, say, a customer that my colleague Ryan or Toby have dealt with, we'll all be there for the handover, and we'll all come and say hi and, just enjoy that experience with them. There might be a bunch of flowers, something like that. But we really enjoy that experience. It's not that way all the time, and people don't always have the time to do all these things, but it's lovely if they do.
Yeah, lovely. Can you remember the first car that you sold personally?
Myself personally, it would have been a new Rolls-Royce Ghost, because I took over sort of looking after the franchise in 2010 when Ghost was launched. Yeah. And I still have a real soft spot for Ghost. It's the one I know the best. I can jump in and do anything with it, and know all the buttons and things, whereas I'm a bit further away from it now. But so Ghost, I have a soft spot, and it would have been a Ghost. I remember the first handover I did it with Dad at the time, and that was Mr. Stevens. He was lovely, really nice man, and I really enjoyed it. He gave me a good experience.
Was it a bit nervous finally, handing the car over?
Yeah, definitely, because that people are going to ask you questions, and you just can only hope that you have learned enough, and you've thought about it enough. And I think that then you build confidence once you've got used to it. But in those first early cars, it was a bit nerve-wracking.
Yeah. Well, it doesn't matter, respective of price, whether it's a £10,000 hatchback or a £200,000 Ghost. The customer can be absolutely fascinated in that car, and they want to know everything about it before they take delivery of it.
Yeah, of course, and they expect you to know everything.
Yeah.
And quite rightly so. So you just want to be as prepared as you can be, and you want to be helpful. You don't really want to have to say, "Oh, well, I'll have to ring you and let you know." You want to be able to answer straight away.
Yeah. I'm told that you're a bit of a dab hand yourself behind the wheel. So it's not just selling and specialising in Rolls-Royce. You also like to, and Bentleys obviously. You like to drive them as well. You like to drive the products that you sell.
Yeah, that's absolutely favourite for me. I've been fortunate enough to do a lot. I own my own the Dion Bouton, so I started doing the London to Brighton veteran car run maybe 12, 13 years ago now.
Yeah.
At the time was one of the only females driving. It's changed a lot now, I'm pleased to say. But yeah, Silver Ghost driving is a big thing for me. I've done the Alpine Rally and I loved it. So I've done many thousands of miles in Silver Ghost. And then I've driven the Napier Railton. So yeah, only female ever to drive that. So that's really special to me. We look after that car. It's the only non-Rolls Royce and Bentley that we look after for its major work. And yeah, that's very special. So any chance to get behind the wheel, I'm there. Of anything, anything I haven't driven before, I'm there. Yeah.
Have you ever managed to get it with all four wheels off the ground like John Cobb? No.
No, I've never tried either. I must say, it's not in my intentions. Just to get it back in one piece is good enough. Yeah.
How many times have you finished the London to Brighton?
10. And the other 3 times I haven't driven it. So yeah, every time I've driven it, I've completed it. Yeah. My little car's fabulous.
Now, because I've always wanted to do the London to Brighton, and I got the opportunity to do it last year with Fiat. And it was a tiny little 1899 3.5 horsepower car with a tiller for a steering wheel. You basically needed 3 arms to drive this thing. And it had the world's most difficult gearbox. And it took part in the event six times before me, and it always broken down because of this gearbox. Anybody who's watching this, I'm sure you share this. It doesn't matter how many times you complete it. The euphoria of actually getting to Brighton is amazing, isn't it? Because it's only 60 miles, but it is such an ordeal, isn't it?
It is, and you feel like it's a really big achievement when you get there, and in one piece. Dad had a problem with his gearbox one year, and he rebuilt the gearbox on the side of the road and carried on and got to Brighton. And I think that was a big achievement for him that year. Yeah. Although my sister has one too, so he was beaten to Brighton by his 2 daughters, which is very sad for him. But we enjoyed it immensely.
Well, I was really nervous about doing it, and I thought the biggest problem was going to be modern traffic. So especially in central London with Uber drivers and buses, it's actually other veteran car drivers, isn't it? It's because there's this the red mist comes down, doesn't it? And it becomes like a race, even though it's not actually one. But
that's what I love about it, is the camaraderie, when you pass someone and they're going, that's good fun. It's really fun. I love it.
Well, let me just change the topic entirely. I've got to ask you about coronavirus. It's obviously something that has affected the motor trade, whoever you are, what size of business, big or large, big or small. How has it been for you, especially during lockdown?
We closed our doors on the 25th of March. Everything happened so quickly, and I'm sure it did for everybody at that time. You were sort of ticking along, trying to get on board with the guidelines and the social distancing, and the next thing is, close the doors. And we were officially out for a month. We closed the doors, and then we came back in with a skeleton team of 10 people, and have gradually built that back up. We're about 26 at the moment, but we have an overall number of 60. So the thing we're really trying to manage is social distancing, hand washing, hand sanitizing, all the things everybody is trying to manage. So the most challenging people to bring back into the business are your trainees and your apprentices, because they need somebody directly with them to be showing them how to do things. So we're working on how we'll get round to that, and obviously there'll be some PPE and things involved. But I have to say, since we've been back, we're not short of work, so we're in a very fortunate position. We've got loads of work to be getting on with. But inquiry level has been pretty good for us. I've been very surprised by that myself, but certainly since sort of end of May, we've had quite a bit going on.
Now, obviously, a lot of dealers, when they opened on June the 1st, they had pretty much a queue of customers round the block, desperate to get in. I presume that wasn't the case for you, but it's a different kind of customer experience, isn't it?
Absolutely, that's very rarely the case for us. But yeah, it is a very different. We're sort of a by appointment only, and I mean, if we have sort of 4, 5, 6 appointments in a week, that's a busy week, you know, because you've got people to show cars to. People can be here for a couple of hours, and we are only by appointment at the moment. You can't just walk in, just to make sure that we're not coinciding with anybody else. We're a small team, and we need to be able to deal with the numbers we have coming in. But there's been a lot of activity in terms of inquiry level, and people are starting to come in and test drive cars, and we have to, you know, we have a special way of doing that. We follow in another car and connect up on a phone so that we can keep in touch with the people, which I assume other dealers are doing.
Yeah.
So I guess we're, you know, although the inquiry level will be different and the experience is different, we're very much the same as everybody else, just doing your best to keep everyone safe. You know, the health and safety of our skilled workforce is really vital. We've got a lot of work. We need them fit and healthy to do it. So we're keeping an eye on everybody, keeping an eye on those who are at home, and updating them. We do a weekly update. So all our team know what's going on.
Okay, brilliant. Just finally, we've actually got a question that's come in on YouTube from Andy here. He says, how many people, or what's the split between people paying in cash for a brand new car and PCP, finance? I mean, is the split really severe when it comes to the level of cars that you're dealing with?
I guess if you'd asked me that question 6 years ago, I'd say it was 90% cash. And today it's changed dramatically, and I'd say we're probably 40% cash. So things are changing, and it's become much more that your money is better off spent elsewhere, and then you finance the car. And that's sort of a very new way of looking at it. And as that's come into it, more and more people have started to use that as an option.
Yeah,
I have to say that's only on modern cars.
yes.
Heritage cars, very much still a cash market.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's not surprising to hear that finance has become a big part of the super luxury category, but it's still fascinating to know the ratio there. So, well, thank you so much for coming on today. It's been absolutely fascinating. And just, well, thanks for taking some time out to come on, really. So tomorrow on the show, we've got Auto Village's Paul Boyce. And if you want to get involved in Car Dealer Live, just like this one, please do contact me or James Baggett. My email address is james.batchelor@blackballmedia.co.uk. And James Baggett is james@blackballmedia.co.uk. You can find me on Twitter @JRRBachelor, and James Baggett and I are both on LinkedIn as well. So if you want to come on the show, do drop us a message. If you want to have a schedule of exactly what's coming up on Car Dealer Live, there's one on the website, so please do go and check that. Thanks again to Georgina for joining us today, and thank you so much. And which just leads me to say thank you very much, and bye-bye.